As school gets underway for thousands of students across Oklahoma, parents and guardians need to be clear on child custody arrangements to get your child where they need to go. Lashandra Johnson is an attorney here in Tulsa at Johnson-Cephas Law, and she's going to be joining us this morning to answer some common questions about child custody law in our state. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. So happy to be here.
Since you're new to the program, kind of give us a little overview of who Lashandra is.
Sure. So my name's Lashandra Johnson, and I'm attorney here in the Tulsa area. I'm originally from Dallas, Texas, and I have a lovely husband, Donnie Johnson, and I have 4 little kiddos. I have Caden, who is 12, Kinsley, who's 10, Kyson, who's 8, and I have a little Kingston, who's 2.
Oh my goodness. And you're an attorney.
I am.
Now, was law kind of what you wanted to go into when you first started, or was that something, a second idea?
So I always wanted to be an attorney. However, when I went to school in undergrad, I decided to get interested in some IT and some technology. So I actually went to go work in corporate America for about 8 years and figured out that really wasn't my passion. So I decided to go to law school at TU Law, and here I am.
Well, we're glad you came on the show today. And with school starting, I think it's really important to kind of define and clarify, you know, kind of what works. There are different terms that describe custody. Kind of outline those for us.
Sure. There are 2 basic categories of custody. So the first one is legal versus physical. Legal is decision making big decisions regarding the child. So that could be medical decisions, education, religion, etc. Physical custody deals with who the child is physically with. The second set of categories are joint and sole custody. Joint is shared parenting, so where both parents are involved in decision making, both parents have access to the child. Sole, typically you have one parent who has that access and makes decisions on behalf of the child. How
complicated can it get when you've kind of got yours, mine, and ours, blended families, grandparents raising little ones? It's really can get pretty convoluted, and how do you help people navigate that?
So it can be very, very complicated. I actually primarily practice family law, so I deal with people a lot with these issues. And so the best thing is to always keep the best interest of the child at bay. And that's how courts look at it. They look and say, what is the best interest of this child? Who should they be with? What time should they spend with this person? Even with grandparents, there are some grandparents who petition the courts to have access to grandchildren, and courts look to say, what is best for this child?
Especially if maybe the marriage is dissolved, but the grandparents on both sides, and especially if the divorce is complicated,
right,
or, you know, and so grandparents do have rights in all of this.
They do not have actual rights naturally, so they have to petition the courts, and the courts have to actually find that there is a reason to override the parent's preference if the parents do not want the grandparent involved.
What would you want viewers to know as the school year starts in terms of helping them navigate a good, helpful start to the school year?
So the first thing is, if you want it to be seamless, you want to make sure that your child or grandchild or the niece or nephew, whoever you have custody over or guardianship over, that the school has the appropriate paperwork. So that means if there's anything that grants someone access, then you want to make sure the school has a copy of that. And then also, if there's something that restricts access, like a protective order, then you also want to make sure the school has that. If you share custody with a parent, you want to make sure they're on the pickup list, so there are no issues when they go to pick up the child after school, or if they have to pick them up for a doctor's appointment, etc.
One of the things is we're looking at here some kind of the laws in Oklahoma. The courts favor equal access, which you kind of alluded to, in the best interest of a child. I thought this was interesting. Out of wedlock will favor the mother.
So actually, it's a very common misconception that fathers out of wedlock actually have rights to the child. In Oklahoma, all rights vest with the mother when the child is born out of wedlock. And so the only way that fathers can get access or rights to this child is to actually go to the courts and petition for paternity to be established.
Okay. And then when the child turns 12, is there some legality to that?
Yes. So when it comes to the best interest of the child, that's the first. But the courts also look at the child's preference if they're 12. So courts feel that at 12 you're mature enough to be able to talk to the judge and actually express what preference with the mom, dad, grandma, aunt, uncle, what your preference is and who you want to be with.
All right. Well, as the school year gets started, going in, having those conversations, open dialogue, it's not always easy, simply because there's, you know, relationship issues and that kind of thing. But keeping the child first and foremost would be your recommendation.
Yes, that should always be everyone's priority, is to make sure that the child is taken care of and that everything's as seamless as possible for that child.
All right. We appreciate you coming in today and sharing with us as the school year begins.
Yes, thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
All right, it is 9:19. England walking away with a big win over Australia to put them in the World Cup championship. After the break, we've got highlights